My name is Vlad Lounegov. I'm CEO and co-founder of mBank. mBank is one of the fastest growing fintechs in the world. My background is primarily in private equity, so I graduated in the year 2000 from the London School of Economics, went straight into private equity, and then 6 years of career in private equity. I had a mini exit, and starting my consulting career, I focused at banking and banking technology for over 10 years. Just to realize that potentially there's another way. Let's go out and change the world. Well, it's very hard to be successful just focusing on one thing, right? So you have to have at least three things that need to be in equilibrium. One is you need to have a solid family life. You have to have a foundation, something that you can fall back to. Second, you need to have a career and some kind of fulfillment. You need to have fulfillment. Everybody needs to have fulfillment. And three, you need to be healthy. Being healthy is very, very tough. That requires a lot of dedication. It requires a lot of discipline. And to keep those three in equilibrium is actually very difficult. I've been very fortunate. My wife and my family is of great support to everything I do. I've also been fortunate that I had the opportunity to choose everybody that I work with. I have the opportunity to choose every investor that's ever come close to mBank, and I have the opportunity to choose every client to whom we deliver the services. So it's a collection, it's a balance between those three pillars that is very important. That's what drives me. mBank operates in three distinct markets. One is traditional financial institutions, second one is neobanks and challenger banks, and the third one is non-banks. For traditional financial institutions, what we do is we roll out a digital offshoot, a parallel core to their existing infrastructure, basically helping them onboard new products and services and also facilitate connection to the fintech ecosystem. For challenger banks, we provide basically back-to-front functionality. Challenger banks can essentially provide us with a logo and a color scheme, and we can roll out an instance of banking software to them instantly. However, the third category is the one that's really driving growth at the moment, and this is non-banks moving into banking space. So, for example, colleges and universities can become their own banks. A lot of organizations that have significant following can become their own banks. You've heard that Facebook is trying to become a bank, Google is trying to become a bank, Amazon has tried several times to become a bank. So the future is, in 2020 and beyond, the future is non-banks. There are a lot of misconceptions in the financial services and financial services technology in particular. The first thing is that United States market is supplied primarily by 4 vendors. Those 4 vendors, they provide services to 96% of all financial institutions in the United States. There are about 11 to 12,000 financial institutions, banks and credit unions, and only 4 technology vendors. So the biggest misconception is that banks have differentiated offering. Actually, they don't. At the foundational level, the bottom line is that all banks run on the same technology. And the second misconception is that banks are not innovators. They're trying to innovate, but hey, you know, that most of their systems are built 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Some of them are built in the 50s and they're still operational. Banking is not going to go away. Whether banks will survive in the same way as they are right now is doubtful. I think that we all as consumers of banking services will continue demanding banking services. However, the way we consume banking services is already changing. In fact, millennials, for example, will never walk into a branch. So branches are becoming obsolete, even though if you look around, all you see here on Fifth Avenue is branches of banks. So banking is not going to disappear at all, but banks potentially will. There is a strong misconception amongst the younger generation that when they graduate from a college that they can fit into a particular job. My son, I have an 11-year-old son, my son comes to me and says, "Hey Daddy, I want to be like you when I grow up. Can you help me? Can you prepare me to become the successor in mBank? Or can I learn to be a banker? Can I become a banker?" And I tell him, look, it's very hard for me to tell you what banking is going to look like when you grow up. If you focus on developing a skill set that's good for today, or that's good for what we know as your parents, it's not going to be sufficient. It's not going to work for you. What you have to develop is you have to build character. You have to develop what we call soft skills. And most importantly, you need to have the right attitude. About 6 years ago, I was in my 7th year of professional services career at PwC. I've worked in 3 out of the 4 big fours, PwC, KPMG and EY. I realized that what we've been advising our clients on is actually obsolete. We've been trying to push or put forward recommendations based on technology that was built in the 90s. So I thought to myself, there must be a different way, or there must be another way. And this is why I left consulting. And actually, the biggest decision, or the best decision I've made in my life, was to leave consulting and to become an entrepreneur. In my career as an entrepreneur, I've faced a lot of people that create a lot of noise. And I've faced a lot of clients who appear to be potential clients, but they're not. And I've faced a lot of potential investors who are not. So one advice that I would give is be selective, make sure that you understand what the other party wants. And if it's not a fit, it doesn't matter. You do not try to make it a fit. If it doesn't fit, then you go out and say, bye. You know, when one door closes, the other one opens. And so that's the biggest piece of advice I can give you. Joining FPC has been life-changing for me from many perspectives. One is that I personally believe that there's a lot of misinformation and misconception in the industry, and there are not so many people who talk about it openly. There are not so many people who recognize that something needs to change, and those who do very often are shy to talk about it, and they don't talk about it enough. FPC is actually the opposite. They talk about the challenges, they talk about the ideas, and there's no bullshit. People say what they want to say, not necessarily if this is what you want to hear. Sure. Please reach me through my work website, mbank.com, mbanq.com. I'm also on LinkedIn and on Instagram. My last name is Lounegov. It's pretty rare, Lounegov, so you'll be able to find me in social media or through my website.